What's up, everybody? Today we will talk about how to keep their attention. Whew. I'm going to talk about the 8-second rule, and you are going to end up with some really key pointers on how to get them back when you feel like you're losing them a little bit. Have you ever experienced that? You're talking to somebody and then you see them just sort of fade off, whether it's a big audience or it's like one person sitting in front of you. And you're like, oh, how do I get them back? Well, that's what we want to talk about here today, is how to keep their attention, how to captivate them, really draw them in. And I understand that we're talking about kind of two different scenarios here, really. One is sort of, the Instagram, I'm going to put a video out there, and how do I make sure that you watch this for as long as I want you to watch this? And then another one is having a live audience in front of you, and how do I make sure that you don't look away and you don't pull up your phone? And I think it's really the same principles with both. All that we're talking about is a bit of a timing thing and how that works. So let's get right to that. Let's talk about the 8-second rule, because the reality is right now you have about 8 seconds to get someone's attention. Now, in a previous video, I talked about how to get their attention, really giving them a strong promise off the top, teasing a bit of tension. That's a great way to grab them in within 8 seconds. You can do that. And so what we want to talk, not so much about the 8-second rule, but what comes after that. Now, I say when you're in front of people, you have about an 8-minute window before they're going to tune out. And this goes back to like TV time, especially if you've got an adult audience, then you're talking with people who grew up on TV, and about every 8 minutes, there would be a commercial break. And we got trained to think about that. I'm going to watch something and engage with something for about 8 minutes, but then my brain expects that something's going to change, and I'm going to be given a bunch of little hits of different things all coming at me. So you've got about 8 minutes. I work with that when I'm in front of people, when I'm speaking, that I can do something for 8 minutes. But I think right now, when you're doing a video, you've got a lot less than that. I'd say you've got probably 2 to 3 minutes to really do something before somebody's going to start to tune out, close down the video, get out of there, and it's probably even less than that. So how do you keep their attention for as long as you want them to watch what you're trying to give them? Now, in this video, these videos are usually about 4 to 6 minutes, and I'm trying to keep your attention. The way that I do that is by using some of these very same techniques, and I hope that they're working for you. So if you've got only 3 minutes to work with them, and at the end of 3 minutes, then something needs to change, then what are we doing? And this is what I want to talk about here. The first one you're going to do is actually tell them where you're going. So tell them, or you might actually just lead them. You lead them along, well then they're going to know that, oh, I should stay in this. And this is kind of like how to get their attention. You're giving them this promise and this tension, but what I want you to do is every 3 minutes or even less than that, you say, now in a second, I'm going to tell you a really good story. Now in a minute, I'm going to ask you to engage and answer some questions. Now, after I tell you this story, we're going to get to some really clear and positive, practical tools that you can use. So now, your audience is thinking, oh, I'm going to listen to this story because after this story, I'm going to get what I came here for. Or after this part, I'm going to get what I really want more than anything. Just tell them where you're going. Like, I know we like to tease the tension and really kind of give some surprises and keep everybody guessing all along the way. But when you're flipping through a book, you're constantly checking to see how many chapters there are, how long this chapter is going to be. You want to know when this thing is going to change. And if you do that as a speaker, you're really helping your audience actually engage in the current moment. Just tell them where you're going. But even more than that, this is where it gets into really masterful performance techniques. You engage in this next part and you are going to perform like a pro and really captivate your audience. This is about using, get this, using the brain. I know. Right? Are you not always using your brain? But here's the thing. You look at the human head. The human head, this is, let's do eyeball, nose, mouth. There you go. Wow, look at that great picture. All right? The thing is, your brain is always working, and when you're when you're listening to somebody, your brain is trying so hard to pick up what they're telling you and put it into practical resources. And you as a speaker, I hope your biggest desire is that you're remembered for actually helping transform this person. And the way that you get remembered is by actually using the brain, triggering different parts of their brain. And if you're always speaking to the prefrontal cortex right here, kind of the language center, the conversation center, if you're always speaking to that, then the rest of the brain here is going to go to sleep. It's just going to tune out, and it's going to want something else. It's going to want stimulation. So then when this part gets tired and says, wow, I've been working really hard here for 8 minutes, I'd love something else to happen, then you go down here and you activate the trust part of their brain and do something relational, and you share some values with them or some experiences, or you activate the next part of their brain and really tell a captivating story that's going to ignite the whole thing and spark their imagination. Or you give something here that's going to ignite their visual center of their brain. You show them something very real that you've been working on, like I just did with this picture. You show something that activates the visual centers. Well, now their brain is activated and you've switched something up. Or you give something else. You give some credible stats and facts about the research that you're doing, showing how it's helped other people or showing actual research that you've done. And what you're doing with all of these, what you can do, and this is what I want you to take away, every few minutes, whether it's every 3 minutes or it's every 1 minute, it's every 8 minutes, just get something in your mind depending on what kind of a speaking opportunity you have, a video or an interview or you're on stage. Pick a time limit, and then after that moment, switch it up. Do something different. Now, you don't have to talk about credible stats for 8 minutes, but make sure that at least you don't talk about it for 12 minutes or 15 minutes, that you, at the very least, you know that at this point you have to cut it off and do something different. That's what I'm talking about here. Do something different. You want to know how to keep their attention? You got to change it up. Oh boy, we're getting messy here on the board. Do something different. That's how you keep their attention. Switch it up. This is what we're trained to respond to. This is what our brains are now actually trained to look for and react to, is something different. If I'm getting bored, I'm going somewhere else. So make sure that they have nowhere else to go to, because they'll never get bored, because you're constantly activating different parts of their brain. We'll get more into that in other videos, but right now I hope this is super helpful for you in keeping your audience's attention for as long as you want it. If you stayed to the end of the video, hey, you know what I'm doing is working. All right, we'll see you next time.